All right, welcome everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into a concept, a pretty interesting one. From the book, Not All Equal, A Pattern You Can't Unsee.
Yeah, it's definitely thought-provoking, and we'll be focusing on just the preface and the introduction for now.
Yeah, just to lay that groundwork. I mean, it's a dense book.
It is.
So we're going to break it down. Basically, the author, Nykos Aletheion Kairistos, puts forward this metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
That men navigate the world like debit cards.
Uh-huh.
And women, they operate more like credit cards.
Interesting way to put it, right?
Okay, so right off the bat, what does that even mean? I mean, like, we all use both.
Right, and that's kind of the point, right? It's not about literally carrying plastic.
Right.
It's about two different systems of value that the author is suggesting might be at play.
Okay.
So the book argues that men often start each day socially, like a debit card, kind of at zero. Every bit of worth, every bit of respect, it all needs to be earned and proven from scratch.
Huh. So like that feeling when you walk into, I don't know, a networking event or something, you don't know anybody.
Right. You got to make those connections, prove you're worth talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
And the book argues this debit card mentality, this idea that you're starting from zero every day.
Uh-huh.
It can run much deeper for men.
Okay.
So it's not just about what they do, it's about how they feel. Like they're constantly needing to make deposits into this social capital account just to stay afloat.
Okay, that's interesting. So where does the whole credit card thing come in? The women.
Right. So the book suggests that women, they often navigate the world with this sense of inherent social credit, like a pre-approved limit, kind of like on a credit card. So they're not starting from zero each day. They're entering situations with certain, I don't know, advantages or assumptions.
I can already see where this could get a little tricky. Is the book saying that women just, have it easier?
Maybe.
That doesn't feel right.
And that's a very good point, a very important distinction to make, right? The book is not about saying one system is better or worse, It's more about acknowledging that these two systems might exist. And then from there, exploring how they might shape our interactions. Remember, even with credit cards, there are limits, there are rules.
Yeah.
There are potential downsides, right?
Well, yeah, for sure. You max that thing out.
Exactly.
Well, suddenly you're in a whole heap of trouble. But how does that translate to this whole social credit card idea?
Well, the book argues that this social credit that women might operate with, it's not static. It fluctuates based on a whole bunch of factors, unspoken social rules, expectations. It's like having your credit limit adjusted based on your spending habits.
Oh.
So, if you make the right choices, you follow the rules, your social standing remains strong. But if you deviate too far...
Oh, there are penalties.
Potentially, yeah.
Interesting. Does the book give any real-world examples of how this plays out?
It does. So in the preface, there's this example of observing two new employees, starting at a company.
Okay.
And one is immediately focusing on measurable achievements, trying to, prove their worth through tangible results. That's more that debit card approach, right?
Okay, I see.
And then there's the other employee who's, also achieving, but they seem to be using a blend of achievements and social capital. They're building relationships, fitting into the company culture.
So is the book saying that the second employee, the one who's using that social capital, is automatically more successful?
Not necessarily, no. The book emphasizes that both approaches have, merits and challenges. The debit card path, it might lead to burnout, that feeling of constantly having to prove yourself.
Yeah, always got to be on.
But it can also, result in tangible accomplishments and a strong sense of, self-reliance.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about the credit card side? What are the potential downsides there?
Well, constantly needing to manage your social credit, it can be exhausting.
I can imagine.
You're always aware of these unspoken rules, worried about making a misstep. And if you de-step outside of those lines, the social penalties, as we were saying, can be pretty harsh.
It's almost like you're always walking this tightrope,
Right.
Always having to maintain that balance. So what's the solution? Does the book offer one?
Not really, no. It's less about solutions and more about awareness.
Okay.
The author's point is that understanding these systems is the first step to navigating them more consciously.
So if we recognize these patterns, then we can start to make more informed choices about how we, play the game.
Exactly, yeah. Whether you lean more towards debit card or credit card or, something in between.
Right.
Understanding the dynamics at play can be incredibly empowering.
Okay, so this whole debit card, credit card thing, it's interesting. But I have to ask, hasn't the feminist movement, changed things, leveled the playing field?
That's a fantastic question, and it's actually something that the author addresses directly.
Oh, okay.
So he argues that feminism, while it's, created incredible opportunities for women, it didn't eliminate this fundamental dynamic.
Oh.
It's almost like it gave women access to both systems.
Wait. So are you saying that women are playing with two cards now?
Potentially. It gets complicated, for sure.
That's a lot.
It is. But before we, jump into all of that, I think there's something really important to highlight right from the introduction.
Okay.
The author writes, this isn't about right or wrong. It's not about better or worse. It's about understanding a fundamental dynamic that shapes our world in ways that we rarely acknowledge.
So he's not trying to point fingers say this way of being is superior.
No.
He's really just urging us to open our eyes to this potential pattern.
Exactly. And he makes it very clear. Understanding doesn't require agreement. It requires honesty.
I like that.
Right. He's inviting us to look at our own lives, the people around us, and see if we recognize this dynamic at play.
That's a really interesting challenge. Put aside your judgments and just observe, see what you notice.
And that observation.
Yeah.
That's where the real deep dive begins.
All right, well, let's keep diving. So we're talking about this debit card versus credit card analogy, but it's not about actual cards, right? It's more about these systems of value and how they might be different for, men and women.
Yeah, definitely. And it's social capital, not just money, which makes it even more more complex.
I was going to say, social capital, that's a whole different game, isn't it?
It is, but in a way, the principles they're kind of similar. If you think about it, social capital, it's about those connections, the trust you build, your influence. It's like the currency of relationships, your reputation, and being able to call in favors, when you need them.
Okay, I'm following you. So how does this debit card mentality, how does it play out in the world of social capital?
So the book suggests that men operating from this debit card mindset, they often focus on building their social capital through very concrete things like achievements, their contributions. It's like making deposits through their work, their skills, the things they've accomplished, the wins they've racked up.
So it's less about who you know and more about what you've done.
Exactly. Think of it like this. In a debit card world, your social connections, they're often earned through shared activities, mutual efforts, and proving you're valuable through action. It's like building this portfolio of achievements that shows, hey, this person's a worthy investment.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's like, building that trust through those short experiences, like that feeling of camaraderie you get when you've, pulled off a tough project with your team.
Precisely. And those shared successes, they become social currency in a way, right? They're proof that you're reliable, you're capable, and, someone worth having in your corner.
Makes sense. So what about the credit card side of social capital? How does that work?
Well, this is where things get, even more interesting. The book suggests that women, because they often start with this inherent social credit, they can build social capital in different ways.
Oh, okay.
So they might leverage relationships, social cues, their understanding of all those unspoken rules to navigate networks and build influence.
So it's less about proving yourself through those achievements and more about understanding the nuances of social dynamics.
It's not that women don't value achievements. It's just that their path to social capital might be less about constantly proving themselves and more about understanding the social landscape and knowing how to leverage it effectively.
Almost like they're playing a different game, even if they're on the same field. But okay, if women have this credit card advantage, doesn't that mean they always come out on top? Doesn't feel quite right.
And you're right. It's not about who wins or loses. Remember, even with a credit card, there's always the risk of overspending, damaging your credit score, facing the consequences.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. So what are the potential downsides of the social credit card?
Well, the book suggests that this constant awareness of social expectations, all the unspoken rules, it can be really, really taxing. It can lead to self-doubt, a fear of making the wrong move, and this sense that you're constantly being judged.
Like you're always walking on eggshells, worried about saying or doing the wrong thing. That could damage your social standing.
Exactly. And if you do deviate from those expectations, the backlash can be pretty intense.
Oh, wow.
The book gives this example. A woman in a leadership position makes a tough decision, and it's perceived as too aggressive. And she might face criticism, get labeled difficult, and see her social capital take a real hit, because of that.
So even though she's accomplished, she's capable, her social credit takes a dip because she didn't play by the unspoken rules.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It highlights how complex this whole credit card system can be.
It does. There's this constant balancing act, right, between leveraging your social capital, but also making sure you don't overstep those invisible boundaries.
Yeah. Okay, so both the debit card and the credit card systems, they have their advantages, they have their drawbacks.
They do.
But I'm still thinking about this idea that feminism didn't really change the game. Like, didn't it level the playing field at all?
That's a really important question, and it's something the author definitely tackles head on. He argues that feminism, while it's obviously, created amazing opportunities for women, it didn't actually eliminate those underlying systems. It's almost like it gave women access to both sets of rules, both cards, so to speak.
Hold on. So you're saying women are now navigating both the debit card and the credit card world?
Yeah, precisely. Think about it. Women are encouraged to achieve, to build careers, to break those glass ceilings.
Right.
That's the debit card side, proving their worth through those accomplishments. But they're also still navigating the credit card system, all those expectations, the social cues, the pressure to conform.
Wow, that's a lot to juggle. It's like they're playing two different games at the same time.
It's not easy, and the book, it explores that in depth. But what's fascinating is that the author suggests this duality, this playing with both cards. It might actually be leading to a new, more hybrid approach to social capital.
A hybrid approach. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. So women they're blending that debit card focus on achievements with the credit card mastery of like social dynamics. That sounds pretty powerful.
It can be. And the book suggests, this hybrid approach. It's not just about women succeeding within the existing systems, but it could be about reshaping those systems themselves.
Okay, so how would that work?
It's like they're creating a new currency, right? Blending elements from both worlds to navigate all the complexities of how things work now.
Can you give me a real world example of what that might look like?
Sure. Imagine a woman who's built this really successful career, let's say in tech, which is traditionally male dominated.
Yeah.
She's got the debit card achievements, right? Coding skills, product launches, that track record.
Yeah.
But she also understands how important it is to build relationships, mentor others, advocate for a more inclusive work environment. That's her credit card savvy, using her influence to make real change.
So it's not an either. It's about recognizing the value of both and using them strategically.
Yeah, being adaptable, recognizing that different situations might call for different cards, right?
Exactly. And the book is saying this ability to kind of to move between those systems fluidly.
Yeah. It
could be like a key factor for leadership in the future.
Especially for women. Yeah, that's what the book suggests.
Pretty exciting stuff. But, does the book talk about any potential downsides to this hybrid approach? It can't all be, perfect, can it?
You're right. It does acknowledge that this whole balancing act can be really tough.
Yeah.
There's the risk of spreading yourself too thin, trying to excel in both worlds and burning out.
Yeah, totally.
And there's still that pressure of societal expectations that you got to be twice as good to be taken seriously.
So even though women are, they're breaking down barriers, they're achieving amazing things, there's still that pressure to conform.
It's complicated, and the book doesn't pretend it's not. It's not about offering easy answers, right? It's about giving us a new way to see things, to understand the dynamics so we can make better choices.
And I think that's what makes this whole concept so interesting. It's not about, blaming anyone or saying one system is better.
Right.
It's about recognizing these patterns are there and then using that knowledge, right, to navigate the world, to make better choices.
Yeah, and the author really encourages us to do that. He writes, this is not a manifesto. It's not a call to action. It's an observation of patterns that exist, whether we like them or not. what you do with that information, it's up to you.
He's giving us the map and saying, go explore.
Exactly.
So as we explore, what questions should we be asking ourselves?
Well, how do these systems, these debit card and credit card dynamics, how do they show up in our lives? How do they affect the choices we make, our relationships, our careers?
Yeah, those are good questions.
And maybe even more importantly, how can we use this knowledge to create a world that's more equitable, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive,
Yeah.
regardless of which card they're dealt.
That's really what it's all about, isn't it?
It is. Understanding gives us the ability to challenge things, to break down those limiting beliefs, to create a future where everybody can play the game on their own terms.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the preface and introduction of Not All Equal. It's been a fascinating conversation.
I'm
really curious to see where this all goes as we explore the rest of the book.
Yeah, me too. But for now, dear listeners, keep those observations coming. What patterns have you noticed in your own lives? Share your thoughts, your insights, and let's keep this conversation going.